A single dad sat alone at a small cafe table, his hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had already gone cold. Not because the tea mattered, but because silence had become familiar. He wasn't lonely in the dramatic sense. He was tired. Tired of being strong when no one was watching. Tired of being enough for everyone else while pretending he didn't need anything himself. And in that instant, something shifted. Not just for them, but for him. Those girls weren't asking for protection alone. They were asking for safety, for dignity, for someone to stand up and say, "You belong here." And here's the part that matters for you. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need permission to protect. You don't need a perfect life to show up as your best self. That single dad thought he was just surviving another quiet day, but purpose doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it looks like fear in someone else's eyes. And when you choose to step forward, when you choose courage over comfort, you don't just change a moment, you change a life. Maybe today isn't about being ready. Maybe it's about being willing. Because the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more people who say yes when it matters. Silence doesn't mean weakness. That's one of the biggest lies people believe, and it's costing them their self-respect, their peace, and their power. Silence is often mistaken for fear because the loudest people usually get the most attention. But strength doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes strength is quiet, controlled, and deeply rooted. Sometimes it looks like a person who has learned that not every emotion needs an audience and not every battle needs noise. The quiet person in the room is rarely empty. They are full of thought, full of experience, full of restraint. They have learned that reacting immediately feels good for a moment, but costs you later. Silence is what happens when someone understands timing. It's the pause between stimulus and response, the space where wisdom lives. Weakness rushes to prove itself. Strength waits. People who have been through real pressure don't waste energy explaining themselves to everyone. They know who they are. They know what they've survived. They know what they're capable of, and not confidence doesn't need constant validation. Silence becomes a shield, not because they're hiding, but because they refuse to let the world dictate their emotional temperature. That kind of control is not passive, it's disciplined. There is also a silence that comes from responsibility. When someone is carrying the weight of others, children, family, expectations, they learn quickly that complaining doesn't solve problems. Action does. Quiet endurance is not surrender, it's strategy. It's choosing stability over drama, consistency over chaos. It's understanding that strength isn't proven in moments of comfort, but in moments when everything inside you wants to break and you keep going anyway. Silence can also be a form of respect for yourself and for others. It's knowing that words can wound as deeply as actions. It's choosing restraint when anger would be easier. That restraint takes courage. Anyone can explode. Not everyone can stay grounded. Staying calm in a storm doesn't mean you're not affected. It means you're anchored. Many people grow silent after being misunderstood too many times, not because they have nothing to say, but because they've learned that not everyone deserves access to their inner world. Silence becomes a boundary, a way of protecting what's valuable, a way of saying without words, "I know my worth." That is not weakness, that is self-respect in its most mature form. And sometimes silence is grief, healing, or growth happening quietly behind the scenes. Seeds don't shout when they grow. Muscles don't announce themselves while they strengthen. The most powerful transformations happen without applause. Silence is often the sound of becoming something stronger than before. Life tests character in unexpected moments, not when you're prepared, not when you've rehearsed your response, but when you're caught off guard and forced to act before fear has time to speak. These moments don't arrive with warnings or countdowns. They slip into ordinary days disguised as interruptions, inconveniences, or small choices that seem insignificant until they aren't. That's where character reveals itself, not in what you say you would do, but in what you actually do when there's no audience and no reward guaranteed. Most people believe their true test will come through something dramatic, something obvious. But real life doesn't work that way. It shows up when you're tired, distracted, or emotionally drained. It shows up when you're just trying to get through the day. In those moments, you don't rise to your intentions, You fall back on your values. You act from habit, from instinct, from who you've been becoming quietly over time. That's why character isn't built in emergencies, it's exposed by them. Unexpected moments strip away performance. There's no time to impress, no space to calculate how things will look. What's left is honesty. Do you step forward or do you look away? Do you protect yourself or do you protect someone else? These decisions happen fast, but they echo for a long time. A single choice can confirm the kind of person you are, or confront you with the person you still need to become. Character is often tested through responsibility that wasn't asked for, a problem that isn't yours, a burden that lands in your hands without explanation. It's easy to talk about doing the right thing when it costs nothing. It's harder when doing the right thing asks for discomfort, risk, or sacrifice. Those are the moments when excuses sound reasonable and silence feels safer. And yet that's exactly where integrity either stands up or steps aside. Unexpected tests also reveal emotional maturity. Anyone can react. Character responds. Anyone can blame circumstances. Character takes ownership. When pressure rises, some people become smaller, defensive and reactive. Others become steadier, clearer, more grounded. The difference isn't strength, it's self-awareness. It's the ability to pause, choose, and act in alignment with what matters, even when emotions are loud. These moments don't always end with applause. Often, no one notices. There's no recognition, no validation, sometimes not even gratitude. But character doesn't depend on witnesses. It operates on an internal standard. It's guided by the quiet knowledge that you did what you could when it counted, even if no one ever knows. Life doesn't test character to punish you. It tests character to reveal you, to you. Each unexpected moment is a mirror, showing you who you are under pressure and inviting you to decide if that's enough. Leadership is a decision, not a title, and that truth makes many people uncomfortable because it removes the excuse of waiting to be chosen. Titles feel safe. They come with authority, permission, and recognition. Decisions come with responsibility, risk, and accountability. Real leadership begins the moment someone chooses to act in alignment with what is right rather than what is convenient, regardless of whether anyone is watching or applauding. Most people associate leadership with hierarchy, with positions printed on business cards or announced in meetings. But influence doesn't come from labels. It comes from behavior. People don't follow titles, they follow consistency, courage, and clarity. A person who steps forward in uncertainty, who remains calm when others panic, who takes responsibility instead of assigning blame, that person is leading, whether or not they've been formally appointed. Leadership shows up in small, quiet moments long before it appears in big ones. It's the decision to listen when others interrupt, the decision to protect someone who doesn't have a voice in the room, the decision to set an example when cutting corners would be easier. These choices don't come with applause, but they build trust, and trust is the true currency of leadership. Once people trust you, influence follows naturally. Choosing to lead often means choosing discomfort. It means speaking up when silence would be safer. It means standing alone before others are ready to stand with you. Titles can shield people from criticism, but decision-based leadership invites it. When you act without formal authority, you expose yourself to judgment. And yet that willingness to be seen, to be responsible, is what separates leaders from observers. Leadership is also deeply tied to ownership, not in the sense of control, but ownership of outcomes. Leaders don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't hide behind excuses or point to circumstances. They ask, what can I do right now? Even when the answer is small, they act. That mindset transforms environments. It turns chaos into direction and uncertainty into momentum. One of the most powerful aspects of decision-based leadership is that it's available to everyone. You don't need permission to be ethical. You don't need authority to be reliable. You don't need a title to show up with integrity. Leadership begins internally, with a commitment to your values, and then expresses itself externally through action. Over time, those actions create credibility, and credibility creates influence. Titles can be given. Leadership must be chosen again and again, especially when it's hard, especially when it costs you something, especially when no one is keeping score. Safety and dignity matter as much as protection, because protection without dignity can feel like control, and safety without respect can feel like fear. True care is not only about shielding someone from harm, but about preserving their sense of worth while doing so. Anyone can step in physically, raise their voice, or assert authority, but it takes a deeper kind of strength to protect someone in a way that allows them to feel human, seen, and respected. When people are vulnerable, what they need most is not just a barrier between them and danger, but reassurance that they still matter. Dignity is the difference between being rescued and being honored. It's the tone you use, the way you look at someone, the way you involve them instead of speaking over them. Protection that ignores dignity can leave invisible wounds, shame, humiliation, dependence, long after the immediate threat has passed. Real safety includes emotional safety. It's knowing you won't be mocked for being afraid.